Hi, and welcome to our last 4 videos. I have created 4 shorter videos where we will cover vitamins, electrolytes, and minerals, which will be spread out throughout the next couple of weeks. So in this first video, we will cover the vitamins A, D, E, and K. They are our fat-soluble vitamins. And then toward the end of the video, I will talk about the color of vegetables and their nutritional value. So if we were in class, I would give you a brief overview, a brief history of vitamins. Where do vitamins come from? Where does the word vitamin come from? What does vitamin mean? So explorers often feared the unknown and diseases. If you think back to the time when people were traveling via boat, going to new lands, and as they're traveling, their crews would get these weird things where their teeth would fall out, or they would go crazy, or their skin would get these horrific rashes. And it was frightening, and they didn't necessarily know what was happening. So we know now that it was scurvy, which is a lack of vitamin C, or pellagra, which is a lack of niacin. But vitamins weren't actually discovered until the early 20th century in the 1900s. There were studies as public health officials were looking through links between poverty and disease and in food consumption, and they didn't really know what these small things were, so they started naming them according to the alphabet. And so we had vitamins A through X at one point. Vita itself means life in Latin. They were discovered in the 20th century. The word vitamin wasn't used until the early 1900s. Vitamins are non-caloric essential nutrients. So there are fat and water-soluble vitamins. Fat-soluble vitamins are stored for longer periods of time. Water-soluble vitamins need to be replenished daily. The only time that a vitamin would be caloric would be if you're eating it in like a gummy form, but the vitamin itself is not a caloric thing. So vitamin science, where do we get vitamins? Aside from pills, aside from taking the vitamin capsule itself, vitamins are obtained naturally from plant and animal foods. So remember the word phytochemicals, which I've said a few times. They're these biologically active compounds found in plants. What does organic mean when we're referring to vitamins? So it doesn't mean pesticide-free. In this case, organic refers to its chemical molecules. So a vitamin is an organic compound, which means it contains a carbon. So it can be destroyed. So too much heat, certain kinds of light, too much oxygen, and then they're unable to perform their question. So this is one of the quiz questions. What are vitamins? Choosing the best response. So they are, actually, you know what? No, I'll tell you the answer. Types of nutrients that our body cannot make, but we must consume. What is their purpose? So they team up with enzymes and minerals to perform functions such as strengthening our bones, healing wounds, keeping our skin healthy, building new cells, helping to resist infections. According to our text from Dr. Walter Willett, 40% of calories consumed in the United States are carbohydrates that are empty, that are refined, and 80% of the carbohydrates that we're choosing to consume are rapidly digested sugars, refined starch, potatoes, things like that. On average, we're consuming around 20% of whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, meaning that we're missing out on a lot of vitamins and minerals. So fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, K, if you want to remember them, DEEK or GEEK, if you put them in a different order, are the ones that are fat-soluble. So we do not need to consume a lot of A, D, E, and K. It doesn't have to be daily. Too much can be toxic because these are dissolved in dietary fats. They're stored in our liver and in our body fat. We'll start with vitamin A. So vitamin A, there are 2 sources, retinol and beta-carotene. Retinol helps with skin and body tissue repair. It helps to build bones and teeth. It helps to fight infections. And we can get it from fish, meat, dairy products, liver, carrots, pumpkin, squash, cantaloupe, peaches. So if you noticed, a lot of those things are orange. So if you think of retinol and beta carotene both, you can think of like who has good eyesight, who eats a lot of carrots. Carrots are orange. Carrots help with eyesight. Eyesight is something that we think of when we think of vitamin A. So deficiencies in vitamin A are seen in countries where people consume very few dairy products and or very few fruits and vegetables. So sometimes we see these deficiencies in Southeast Asia and in African countries who depend on rice as the bulk of their diet, and it's called VAD, V-A-D, vitamin A deficiency, and it can cause unnecessary blindness. So in populations that consume fruits and vegetables at a good level and or dairy products, there's no supplementation suggested on top of that, which would be in a multivitamin. No more is necessary, and too much can be bad for our body. So here are some pictures of some skin conditions where healthy skin cells dry out, become really horny, nail-like tissues. So if you were to grab the skin on top of your hand and pinch it, it goes right back down to normal, right? Compared to somebody who has a vitamin A deficiency, it would maybe stay up in that position. Here's another picture, abnormal dryness of the skin or mucous membranes. Vitamin A deficiency can cause night blindness, weak bones, weak teeth, and infections. So with vitamin A, our body is converting beta carotene to vitamin A. Our body cannot overdose on beta carotene. We can take in too much retinol in the form of vitamin A. So if you were to look at your multivitamin bottle in the back side, it would be best if you're getting more of the vitamin A from beta carotene than if you're getting more of it from retinol. Extra vitamin A will not boost your vision and it will not make you younger. Okay, vitamin D, so A-D-E-K, vitamin D sources. So vitamin D is made when sunshine hits our skin. That's our largest source of vitamin D. So it's actually a hormone rather than a vitamin. And it signals to make new proteins to strengthen muscles, to improve stability. It helps especially in the elderly. It inhibits the growth of certain cancers. Some studies show that it might decrease blood pressure and it might decrease the likelihood of multiple sclerosis. If you have too much, if you have 5 times the recommended daily values, it can cause diarrhea, headaches, vomiting, calcium deposits in the lung and kidneys. So sources of vitamin D you can see there. Dairy products are now fortified with vitamin D by law. And you might say, why is that if we can get vitamin D from the sun as well? Vitamin D helps us to absorb calcium. So when we are consuming products, whether it's dairy or vegetables and fruits that have calcium, we will be able to consume and utilize more calcium when we're consuming it in the presence of vitamin D. So you can see there, it is a hormone. So let's go over these points here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So SPF of 15 or higher would block vitamin D, but we know that too much skin or sun exposure can expose or contribute to skin cancer. This isn't really a problem though, because if you jump down to number 4, 5 to 10 minutes of unprotected sunlight. So if you're just going to your car and back, if you're walking to class and back, if you're walking around outside in the hours of 10 to 3, you're getting enough vitamin D, and most people aren't putting that much sunscreen on that they wouldn't be able to absorb the vitamin D. Let's go up to number 2 then. Elderly people compared to a young person. So a 70-year-old and a 25-year-old who have the same sun exposure. The 70-year-old only makes around 25% of the vitamin D that the 25-year-old would make. So most elderly people are recommended to take a vitamin D supplement, and that would be something that you would hopefully remember and think about as you do age, so our body doesn't process things as well as we get older. And then number 3, the pigmentation of our skin. So the darker your skin, the less that you're able to absorb vitamin D. So a very, very dark person would need 5 to 10 times the exposure to create the same amount of vitamin D as a lighter skinned person. So if we think about this in context of other things that we know, so think about somebody who has very dark skin and they are also lactose intolerant and they live in Philadelphia. So they're not going to be seeing a lot of sun. They're not going to be making as much of the vitamin D from the sun as somebody with a lighter skin, and they're also not consuming a lot of dairy product because of their vitamin D. They would be a person who would look into a vitamin D supplementation. More than 90% though of vitamin D requirement for most people come from casual sun exposure. So deficiencies seen, a softening of the bone. So this is seen in countries where there's very little sun and people not consuming products that have a lot of vitamin D in them. Interesting enough, it's also seen in areas where people are very well protected as far as their clothing and their attire. So we see rickets in areas like Saudi Arabia due to their protective clothing that covers their entire body. And so osteomalacia is something that is still taking place. Vitamin E. So vitamin E is our superhero vitamin. There is a lot of information out about what vitamin does. We find it in vegetable oils. It acts as an antioxidant, so it helps our immune system and healthy cells. So it's known as the superhero vitamin. It's also known as the mysterious vitamin, though. It's the most exploited cure-all vitamin. You probably see information a lot about it. It's the best antioxidant. It prevents oxidative reactions. It minimizes free radicals, and there are studies about it. There are lots of studies in regards to vitamin E, and most of them though are still in the theory form. So we know that we need vitamin E. There are no diseases associated with having low levels. It's everywhere, so it's not one that usually is suggested as a supplement. So in regards to antioxidants, so there is no evidence that large doses, more than needed, of vitamin E prevents aging or diseases. So diets high in antioxidants should help prevent cardiovascular diseases and should help other negative ailments. So the idea is that vitamin E, which is an antioxidant, is able to contribute an electron without becoming unbalanced itself to a free radical. So free radicals are things, they're bad cells within our body. They're unbalanced cells that can then further cause problems within our body and diseases and whatnot. So the idea in eating antioxidants, foods high in antioxidants, is that they are able to make these free radicals balanced without becoming unbalanced themselves. So the theory is that free radicals contribute to the aging process. So free radicals are these bad things within our body, the cells, and they're able to protect us. So you'll see information on eating antioxidants to protect you from arthritis, to protect you from Alzheimer's, from certain cancers and whatnot. Vitamin K is not particularly an interesting vitamin. It comes from green leafy vegetables, and it helps with blood clotting and bone health. And there are a lot of foods that have vitamin K, and deficiencies are very, very rare. So vegetable color. How does vegetable color impact the nutrients coming to us? So the basic idea is that the more intense the color, usually the higher the nutrient content. For example, 6 of the top 10 vitamin A contenders are orange. An orange sweet potato provides more vitamin A than a yellow one. Deep maroon carrots have twice the beta carotene of pale ones. Orange and red tomatoes and orange and red bell peppers generally outrank in higher nutrient content the yellow and green ones, and vitamin C is higher in a red and green bell pepper and tomatoes. So this might sound like, wait, what? The basic idea is that the deeper the color, the more intense the color, probably the healthier the soil that it grew in, and the healthier the soil, that's where they're getting these vitamins and minerals. So the darker green your lettuce leaves, the better. The darker green that your broccoli leaves, the better. The darker color that your tomatoes are, the better. However, in the long run, the take-home message is eat a variety of fruits and vegetables. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video, and then we will start up a new one. Have a good day.